Hi, I'm Eden Orfano-Shoro, and I'm an art psychotherapist. During the pandemic, we were in situations where we don't feel as free as we used to. I have witnessed a lot of my clients are a bit more anxious, as well as I felt a bit more anxious myself. This image was created during the pandemic, actually when I had coronavirus myself.
There was a lot of anxiety around what is this and will I be able to get the treatment I need. There was that. I mean, I really wasn't worried because I feel like I'm pretty strong, but I had to be stuck in this office, by myself for 7 days, and I couldn't leave. And I felt quite lonely. And by day 5, I was really mentally not well because I was crying a lot. It was awful because I was just felt like a trapped animal, after 5 days of just being in here by myself. So yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Emily. Part of my average everyday routine in lockdown was to still get up and do my makeup, just because it brought a little bit of normality back to life and it just got me up and ready. I'm ready to face the day. I have just started my MA in painting at the Royal College of Art.
It's still all online. It's just really bizarre not actually meeting people. Like, I keep having Zoom meetings with people that I've never met, and I don't know if it feels real. In the first lockdown, I had just finished my dissertation for my BA, and it was such a relief to have that done. There was so much pressure. I was almost in a fortunate position that I had to paint, because if I didn't paint, then I wouldn't have been able to have some sort of relief.
Such an amazing sky. Usually about this time I will try and catch up with friends through Zoom and see how their day has been going, what they've been up to, what they've been making.
My name is Lou. I'm a French first year student at LCC. Because I literally just got into uni, it's just a bit more frustrating and you get a little bit more annoyed because you're just thinking this is what was supposed to be a fresh start, but you're just locked in. You can't meet people, you're not supposed to hang out with people that are not from your flat, so it's just you feel a bit excluded from the world. My typical day during lockdown has been not very interesting, but I try to stay and keep productive, and I wake up, take a quick breakfast, get ready, work on personal projects such as writing, or in this moment I'm working on art. I use a lot of, paint marker, Poscas. So that's what I did yesterday. And I do go to the smoking area a lot because that's the only place people are allowed to meet. So I just try to hang out with people and say, hi, I've been a bit lonely. Do you mind having a little sit and we can talk? So yeah.
I have never done art therapy before.
I've heard of art therapy before, but I've never personally tried it.
Art is a wonderful way for people to communicate without having to use words.
What art we're making, how it's going to render.
I call art created in therapeutic context visual emotional journals. It's like a document. It's documentation of your emotional process.
I don't really know what to expect, so I'm actually really excited.
Today I am joining Psyche Gallery.
Today I'm joining Psyche Gallery
to transform my emotions into artwork.
Hello, Emily and Lou. I'm glad that you're here with me today. So I think today we're going to explore a little bit about kind of using art as a kind of creative narrative for how you're experiencing life right now, and specifically how you've been witnessing the pandemic. Art is the language for how you would explore or kind of give narrative to how you were feeling or your emotions or things like that. The cool thing about making art is that you can look back on it in 6 months or 6 years and go, oh my gosh, wow, that's where I was. And it takes you straight back to where you were emotionally. What's really, really important to understand about therapeutic arts and art psychotherapy is that it's really about the process. So it's about what happens with you while you're making this. And how I like to work is I think it's best if you just don't think so much. You literally let whatever first comes into your head pop out, and you're not thinking at all, and everything's kind of unconsciously kind of coming out. That's the beauty of using arts as the language. Because I know coronavirus has a physical component to it because it affects our bodies, right? So there's a bit of kind of, I suppose, physical anguish as also with mental. So we're going to really work with the body and the mind through this. Have your art materials ready to go. Okay, so what we're going to do is just take an inventory of where you're sitting, maybe take a nice deep breath, just kind of feel what your body feels like right now. Do you feel okay? Do you feel tired? Do you feel stressed? Maybe take your thoughts back to the last couple months of what you've experienced prior to the lifting of the regulations. Like, where were you when the pandemic first kind of was broadcast in England? An instrument with your non-dominant hand. Yeah. And then kind of draw how that's feeling in your body or how that looks.
It's actually kind of hard to use your non-dominant hand. Like a task.
Yeah. Let the abstractness of it kind of come through you.
I've kind of drawn like a version of a self-portrait, but really loose, and then just thinking like how clouded everything just felt. So it's kind of just like expanding out of the page.
Fantastic.
I guess so because I'm type 1 diabetic, so at the start of lockdown, which was March the 17th, I was shielding all the way until August the 1st. So I didn't see anyone apart from the people that I lived with.
When the UK went into lockdown, I'm French and I was in Paris, so I was already well far off in my lockdown. And I think that unconsciously I've just been drawing my apartment, my little studio in which I live in, and that it feels like really like a box.
This is like the loosest drawing I've done in such a long time. I normally do like so much detail. It's just like just the act of drawing. I guess like in my practice, like as a portrait painter, I really worry about like the amount of detail. But to use the less dominant hand, it was just a lot freer, and maybe not worrying about the marks I'm putting down on the page.
Yeah. It's good to engage, I suppose, the non-dominant side because it's more of an unconscious process. And as artists, we focus on what the aesthetic is. So by doing it with the other hand, it's a real test to do kind of in the moment explore what is unknown. Do you want to share what you've done?
I'm happy to share. It's not the greatest drawing I've ever done.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what's going on there? You have some things around you.
So I've got like a laptop, I've got like shopping bags, just loosely drawn, some medicine packets, and then kind of just giving it an eye roll in my self-portrait, like kind of thinking like everything being so uncertain. And I guess this is just all like self-combustion around my head.
Amazing. Very good.
I've only done a little corner because I like drawing in corners.
Oh, okay.
Very abstract.
Oh, wow.
I felt kind of drawn to the color blue because to me it represents sadness, yet the space I've stayed in for about 2 months, I lived alone in a really tiny studio, and I spent most of my days at my desk, which in a way kind of looks like this, and I've in a way represented like a sun because it was really sunny during lockdown, and I could get the sun right through my window next to me, and I could only think, I wish to go out. I just want to enjoy the sun and having a walk with someone. So I think that is something that I've represented because it's one of the things that really was hard on me. And I was having a lot of schoolwork because it was my senior year of high school. So in the beginning, I was honestly more stressed about my schoolwork than about the pandemic or anyone getting infected.
Yeah, I definitely resonated because obviously I just graduated from my fine art program, so we didn't have our end of year show or our graduation. So I felt that sadness too.
You can make a metaphor of that as well about how this pandemic, you were confined, but you had to use it to your advantage. Maybe you had more time to study or maybe do some deep thinking or do your own process or something. You expressed a little bit about how it was to engage the non-dominant hand. And so do you have anything else that kind of came and as you're looking at it now from that experience?
A bit awkward at first, but then I think I decided not to care that my lines are not straight and just give in to the wiggliness of it.
So you kind of gave in and like kind of came out the other side. Yeah.
Yeah, I used it as my advantage.
Amazing.
At the beginning, it felt really unnatural, but then I found a way of working through that, and I guess it's kind of just thinking about the drawing as a method of stress relief.
Brilliant. I love what you said, Emily, about you found a way to make it work. Really what therapeutic arts are about. It gives you agency to figure out different ways of working, which I think is super important for where we are right now. Because it's really about us shifting the dynamic and having new ways of working. Absolutely brilliant. So well done, and thank you for sharing. We're going to do another little activity, and then again, you can do it with either hand this time. If you felt that was a powerful kind of instrument to use your non-dominant hand, you're welcome to do it that way.
I guess with my own artwork that I was completing during lockdown, because I still had to complete my end of year project for university, and I ended up completing a self-portraiture project. The pictures that I used were selfies that I took all throughout lockdown, and they were kind of the images that I used to communicate with friends that I wasn't seeing. So we didn't actually use words, we used pictures. So I guess in a way that actually really relates. And there was this one time in our group chat where we actually all sent pictures of ourselves crying, which is obviously it's quite intense. And I actually did paint those images. And I think to paint that image of me crying, it was kind of an understanding that, and acknowledging that it was a collective experience, and to suffer kind of meant that it was human.
Yeah.
Even though at the time when I thought I was just painting a picture of myself crying, to reflect on it after I had completed it, that's what I was doing.
The fact that you touched in on the collective consciousness is really, really huge. And that your images, all of you said that a lot of them were actually tearful and crying, and that everyone was kind of experiencing that together and collectively.
Yeah, so it kind of made it feel okay that others were in the same situation, but also prepared to share it with such a raw sense. Yeah.
That's another amazing attribute to arts and all type of arts. It really shows the human condition, right? And that we all can relate to this thing that's bigger than us. Because I think art in a way is bigger than us. It's something we can all identify with and really witness each other's suffering or joy or whatever experience that is human, makes us human. So the art was like the glue. The art was the community, and so we could all communicate through this, even though we may be different ages, different genders, different races, different languages, different socioeconomic backgrounds. So art was that we could all express ourselves through.
Yeah, definitely. It's just a connective experience. Can you hear the sound of my pencil?
I can. It's wonderful. Because we said action therapy, right? So you're actually doing something and you can hear it, And so art making is a kind of combines everything. You're using the mind, the body. Sometimes you can make sound with it, So yeah, very cool. Okay.
I'm done.
And how was that?
It was better. First of all, it was easier using my dominant hand.
Yeah.
I was a bit more in control. And I think it was easier because I focused on the theme of reflection. So I had kind of a clear idea of what I was thinking and feeling, and I easily put that on paper. I draw it next to the first one.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's sort of eye that reflects from the virus, from every information that we're getting about having to social distance, having to not see your friends, having to be alone in the metro if you had to take it. And underneath, I also put about the positive things that came from it, through little blue, green circle where all the bad things about the virus and things, I cannot access it. The positive, it will become better and more important than all negativity. I do think that you need to see the good part in things like that, because we tend to focus on negative, and in this case there is a lot of negative. I do agree with that, but if we focus on the little things like the climate change doing a little bit better, people actually growing closer with friends, people realizing the importance of hospitals and care, and also the importance of virtual relations. For me, it's like actually a good step towards a good future, because I have a lot of virtual relations with my friends who live across the world, and I feel like people respect that a little bit more now.
Absolutely. That's really great. And thank you for sharing that, because I think I needed to hear that as well. And Emily, how about you?
Okay, so like Lou, using my dominant hand kind of gave me more control, but I think it also made me slip more back into how I make artwork and drawings like normally. So my drawing is just like me, sort of filling a face at like I don't really know like what's going on still, even though we are in a better place. It's kind of like what's around the corner, like what are we looking for. So I guess it's kind of like that confused puzzle face, which is kind of like like many of the faces that I pulled in my self-portraits that I as my India project.
I love that you mentioned that yourself experienced that. So very cool. I think it's interesting. Both of you mentioned when you used your dominant hand control. Some people say that the dominant hand is more like the ego side, and the non-dominant hand is more like the heart side, or the body, the connected body side. So maybe that's interesting to explore on another level, or maybe do your own practice with it. Any final thoughts about what you just witnessed there?
In both images drawn squares, and I think that that is how most people felt about the lockdown, having to follow every strict rule and not be able to be free anymore.
I think also to share something that you've just drawn that can be so emotive, like when you said, are you happy to share? Like my initial reaction inside was, no, I don't want to share this, because I guess when I share a painting normally, it's like, oh, this is the complete product, like this is the output that I have put so much time into, but to do something so quickly is so different.
It is very powerful to have that vulnerability and be able to share that and express that. So that's the brilliance of having that art making as a therapeutic and emotional process, that you're able to be witnessed so other people can feel that what you've experienced, without words. I could sense like, oh gosh, that's very, like you said, emotive.
I think that the reflection part is really important, because emotions change, and from the beginning of lockdown I did not feel the same as I felt towards the end, because when it ended I was really happy, but before that it was really complicated, and my feelings got all entangled in themselves, and I could not figure out what I was thinking for most of the time. So I think that by reflecting about it now, I think that I see actually more clearly what was happening at the time and how I was feeling. But that's because I had to take a few steps back.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Absolutely. I think, like exactly what you said, Lou, it's the reflection space that aids the healing process, So I think that's really brilliant. Both of you have mentioned that, and so amazing. Well done. All right. Well, that's kind of the end of our session. It was really great that both of you were able to explore so deeply and speak so clearly, and I really appreciate both of you sharing.
Thank you for leading it.
Yeah.
Okay. cool. Yeah, no worries. Thanks.
I know.
Bye.
I wasn't really sure what to expect, but it was very good.
Pretty good. Kind of helpful, actually.
It did make me think about that I should probably try and keep sketchbooks and journals again.
Trying to put those feelings on paper somehow. That was not exactly, they didn't have to be precise, but had to come from the mind and heart.
I think the art was almost a way of almost like settling you in to talk about bigger issues, like bigger things. I enjoyed it.
Our work is going into the virtual gallery space that you can view online.
Let's put our artwork into the virtual gallery.